Are you ready to learn about the most common mistakes that new drone pilots make? So grab a snack and get ready for some laugh as we go through the top 15 blunders that every new drone pilot might experience. Not knowing the drone laws and the local area that you plan to fly in. This one is basically a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many actually forget to check the drone rules before they take off. Don't be that guy that gets hit by a big fine because you're flying over a military base. Do your research, people. Don't fly in areas where you easily piss off people. It's important to be considerate when you're flying your drone. Don't be the guy that ruins everybody's barbecue with your drone. Avoid flying over private property and close to wildlife that might get disturbed. Not having your software or firmware updated before you leave home. But trust me, it's better to spend some time at home updating your software than experience a crash when you're on site because of old and buggy software. It might not end that bad, but you could end up in a situation where you're prevented from taking off. Forgetting to format your SD card and realizing that it's full. We all been there. You're about to capture the perfect shot and suddenly the drone beeps and tells you that the SD card is full. This is super annoying and you might not be able to clear out some space on your card while you are airborne because you may not have offloaded the footage. Don't let that happen to you. Not checking your battery levels before you fly. This is a super rookie mistake because of auto discharge when you leave the batteries in the hub for a longer period of time. Make sure you have fully charged batteries before you go on location. Otherwise it might be a very short flight. Crashing your drone because you fly outside visual line of sight. It's important always to keep your drone within visual line of sight. And in most countries, it's also required by law. And this is of course put in place to avoid accidents. But sometimes it might be just too tempting just to see how far you can push it. Just remember, if you lose sight of your drone, you also lose your ability to act if something goes wrong. Flying your drone too close to leafless branches or wires. The sensors on your drone might not be capable of picking up these objects, which could lead to an unforeseen crash. Flying too close to the water surface in sport mode. This can confuse the downward sensors and make the drone lose altitude, potentially ending up in the water. Don't turn your drone into fish food. Crashing indoors when you're flying the drone pointing towards you with no GPS. Without GPS, the drone is likely to drift, and with the controls reversed, you're very likely to crash. Just because you can fly your drone in your living room, that doesn't mean that you should. This one is a stupid one. Forgetting to press record. It's always a bummer returning from a really great flight just to find out when you arrive home that there's no footage on your SD card. Don't let your amazing flight be forgotten just because you forgot to hit the record button. Crashing the drone because you have forgotten it does not have side sensors. Most beginner drones do not have sensors on the sides. So it's really important to be aware of this when you're flying, as your drone might end up as wall decoration somewhere. Flying out in tailwind. That's a classic. Make sure to fly out against the wind and make sure that you have plenty of power left on the battery to make it back home safe. Don't let a gust of wind carry your drone away. And now we're talking wind. Many have lost their drones because they set the return to home altitude too high. The wind is significantly stronger when you go high, so there's a really big chance that you don't have enough force in the drone to make it back home. So make sure to set an appropriate return to home altitude, not too high, but also not too low so you run into problems with obstacles on your way back. Bird strikes. It's really important that you pay extra attention when you're flying around wildlife like birds. In some scenarios, they might be provoked by the drone's presence, and a bird strike can be really fatal for your drone. So don't be the person that starts a bird war with your drone.
What? Is this a bird farm or what is happening? Is this a...
In case you run into problems, just simply seek higher and fly away. Make sure that your home point is updated. This will help to ensure that the drone knows where to return to in the event of an emergency. You don't want your drone to get lost and end up in Timbuktu. So here you have it, the 15 biggest mistakes that new drone pilots make, and myself sometimes. I hope these tips will help you avoid these blunders so you can have a safe and enjoyable flight. And if you do happen to make one of these mistakes, don't worry, learn from it and move on. Do you know of any other mistakes that should have made it on the list? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then feel free to give it a like. If you didn't like it, feel free to press the dislike button twice. Thank you for watching and happy flying.